Hello, beautiful people of the internet. How are you doing today? My name is Jackie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today in this video, I'm going to be wrapping up all the books that I read in the month of September 2020. So in September, I only read 4 books. However, one of them was pretty long, so that was still 1,722 pages with an average star rating of 4 out of 5. Don't know if I really have much more to say by the way of introductions. I didn't read a whole lot, started school again, had to flee from COVID, was pretty busy. But, overall, the books that I read were pretty decent, and I'm hoping to read more in October. Halloween is this month, so definitely want to read a lot of thrillers, especially later in October. The first book that I read in the month of September was Dragonfly in Amber by Diana Gabaldon, the sequel to Outlander, and I gave this book 4 stars. Like I said, this is the second book in the Outlander series. Outlander follows a 20th century nurse named Claire who accidentally time travels back to 18th century Scotland where she meets and falls in love with Jamie Fraser, and it's just their romantic escapades throughout time. And overall, I really enjoy this series. I did have some issues with this book. I can't go into specifics about the plot because obviously it's spoilers if you haven't read the first book or seen the TV show. I actually didn't mind the scenes from the 20th century timeline in this book. I actually like Roger's character, kind of. I felt like his narration was kind of funny sometimes, especially with this giant crush that he has on Bree. Then again, when I watched the TV show, I really liked him at first, and then I soured on him a bit, so I don't know if it's going to be the same in the books. And I absolutely loved the ending of this book. I thought it was great. I loved it when it was done in the show as well, and it makes me excited to pick up book 3. I think some of the issues I had with this book were from the French storyline, and this book had so much more sexual assault than I remembered. I think some of the storylines from the show, because it's been a while, I forgot about, and then as I was reading the book, right before a bad event would happen, I would remember what was about to happen and I would feel this sense of dread in the pit of my stomach. There was so much rape content in this book, not always on the page, but it was just really difficult to get through because it was a lot. It's a lot to deal with. Another issue that I had with this book is, without spoiling anything, I will say the storyline about Faith, which people who have read the book or seen the show will understand what I mean. I think it was a more emotional moment in the show. I actually think that storyline was done better in the show than it was in the book, because the show, watching the episode on screen, really was so sad and emotionally impactful. And, in the book it was still sad, but I didn't feel the characters' emotions come across as strongly as they did in the TV show. Overall, though, I did enjoy the book, and I will definitely continue with this series. I love the TV adaptation. I really like the characters and their relationships, so I will definitely continue on reading the Outlander books. However, just because of those reasons, this was not a full 5 stars for me. The next book that I read in September was I See You by Claire Mackintosh. I read another one of Claire Mackintosh's books, I Let You Go, and so when I was looking for something that I could read on my Libby app right away, I decided to pick up this thriller from her. Basically, I See You follows our main character Zoe, who is a middle-aged divorced mom living in London with her boyfriend and her 2 young adult children. And one day she sees a picture of her in the newspaper that she didn't put there. And she begins to realize that these ads featuring women are connected to crimes, and that causes her to fear for her safety and what might happen to her, who put this picture there and why. And we also follow a character who is in the police force, and what was her name? Kelly? Yes. Zoe and Kelly are our two main perspectives. And so this book is about this mystery of these ads. Who is it that has been watching Zoe? What do they want? What's going to happen? It's a really interesting premise. However, it did fall a little short for me, and I just realized I didn't even tell you what I rated this book. I gave this book 3 stars. Sorry, forgot about that part. I think this book had a really interesting concept that I thought was really original and interesting. However, I did not connect with Zoe and Kelly's characters for whatever reason. And so even though this is a thriller, I didn't feel like I was in suspense waiting to see what was going to happen. Probably because I just didn't care that much about the characters. I will say this book surprised me, which mysteries and thrillers often do not. A lot of times I find myself predicting what's going to happen at the end. In this case, the reveal of who was behind these ads was surprising to me, and it did, in retrospect, make sense in some regards. I'm not sure if the motive was strong enough, but I was okay with it. I thought it was a pretty good reveal. And then there was a micro twist at the very end of the book, which again was surprising, but I personally did not really like. I think overall this was a fine book, but I just wanted a little more from it. Books and Lala always says that what she wants from a thriller is she wants to be entertained and she wants to be surprised. I really agree with her on that. And while I do think this book surprised me, I was not thoroughly entertained. I definitely think that it could have been more suspenseful. The characters could have been more rootable. And so I didn't feel that same thirst to know what was really going on. And even though the ending was surprising, it still was slightly lacking in some regards. So that's why I ended up giving this 3 stars. It was good, but not great. This next book I read for school, and I don't know how much I really have to say about it. That is 1066, The Year of Conquest by David Howarth. I didn't give this a rating. I read it for a class I'm taking on British history this semester, and overall, this was good, but I really don't know, how to review it. Basically, this is a really short history text about the Norman conquest of England by William the Conqueror in 1066, discussing the background of it, how the events leading up to it, and what transpired in the Norman conquest. It was pretty accessible, honestly. I think it gave some good information and it wasn't hard to read. So if you're really interested in learning all about the Norman conquest, then maybe check this out. Finally, we are going to talk about my favorite book of the month, and that is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. This is a book that I really had high expectations for and that I was really excited to read, and I am happy to say that I loved it and I gave it 5 stars. Best book of the month, easily. I actually ordered this particular edition from England because I just love the UK cover. I think it is so beautiful and so much nicer than the American cover. So I'm really excited to have this copy from Blackwell's. Hamnet takes place in the summer of 1596 in Stratford-upon-Avon, the hometown of William Shakespeare. Shakespeare's son, Hamnet, rushes to get help after his twin sister Judith is struck down with the bubonic plague. However, it is Hamnet who we know eventually ends up passing away. So this book is really an exploration of grief in the Shakespeare family, about the impact of Hamnet's death on William Shakespeare and his wife's Agnes's marriage, the toll it takes on them, and the impact on Hamnet's sisters, Judith in particular. And I really enjoyed the depiction of William Shakespeare and Agnes Hathaway's relationship in this book. We don't know a lot about what their relationship was like, other than the fact that she was several years older than him when they got married, and it was a shotgun wedding because she gave birth less than 9 months after the marriage. So a lot of people think that their marriage was not affectionate, that it was forced on them. But this book actually gives a very loving portrait of their relationship, which I really enjoyed. The depiction of the Shakespeare family in this book was, I think, really great. An interesting thing about this book is that it does things I think I usually wouldn't like. It's written in the present tense, which I usually don't like, but I didn't mind. It has very flowery writing, which isn't going to work for a lot of people, but I didn't mind. And it also has some fantastical elements with Agnes's character, where she has a reputation in Stratford for being very odd and for possibly dabbling in some magic or supernatural healing. And her character is depicted as having visions of the future, which she doesn't always know exactly what they mean, but she has a bit of precognition. Is that the word? I hope that's the word, otherwise I sound so stupid right now. I definitely think this is not a book for everyone, but it just enchanted me in ways that I can't fully explain. I was so caught up in it, and I just really loved the book. I loved everything about it. If I had to give it a criticism in any way, it's that I wish it could have gone on longer. When it ended, I was just like, oh my god, that's it? Like, please give me more. I do think it could delve into the Hamlet of it all a little more. Shakespeare really isn't the main focus of this book, and I think this book is advertised to be a discussion of how Hamlet's death might have inspired Hamlet the play, but that's only brought in a little bit at the end, so I would have liked to maybe see a little more of that brought in, but overall, I just really loved this. I thought it was so emotional and well written, and I really enjoyed all of the characters. Agnes is definitely quirky, to say the least, and I usually wouldn't like having that bit of a fantastical element in a historical fiction book, but for some reason, I just didn't mind. I just loved this book so much, despite that it had some things I usually wouldn't like. So I would recommend this, but again, I don't know if it's necessarily the book for everyone, but it did end up being a book for me. So really happy that I read it. So those are the books that I read in September. I know I didn't read a lot, but we ended on a pretty positive note, so that is good. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I read this month, and if so, what did you think of them? Please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more from me. I post new videos every single Wednesday. My social media links are down below in the description if you want to follow me on Tumblr, Instagram, or be my friend on Goodreads. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you have an invigorating rest of your day. Bye, and I'll see you in the next video.